For many years now, I have been studying the Word of God in a way that is different than, I guess, the typical person studies or reads the Word of God. Now, I do it for many different reasons, but the main reason why I do it is because 14 years ago, I was going through a challenge in my life that I felt was so difficult, so embarrassing, so depressing, so dishonorable that it really affected my person, my being, my existence, if you will. Now, I've never experienced suicidal ideation or suicidal thoughts. In other words, even though I was in a moment of extreme depression, anxiety, uncertainty, frustration, anger, all of those things that perhaps can lead somebody to a feeling of hopelessness and a probably desire to not exist anymore, because that's so true and we hardly ever talk about it, but it's necessary to talk about it. And even though I wasn't going through that kind of level of thinking, I have had close members of my family. My younger brother, for example, many years ago, homeless, living in a car by the lake, struggling, at a different time than my struggle. And he was thinking about suicide. He was contemplating of taking his own life, to the point that in one instance we had the ability to talk together, and my older brother and him had a discussion about my brother's plan. He was going to take his life at the lake with a .38 special pistol. The only problem was that at the time when he was thinking of taking his own life, he was underage and he did not have the money or the ability to go and buy the bullets. Now, the bullets, I'm sure he could have gotten. Anybody can get anything if they really want to. But I think the circumstances were there to make it a little more difficult for him. And thankfully, he was able to open up and talk to us. And though he has had struggles in his life, continues to have struggles in his life, he still has life. I still have life. So I bring this up because the reality of life in this world is or comes with a whole lot of struggles. And those struggles can sometimes set you off course. And for those people who do not have faith, who do not have a higher power that they call God, those people potentially could find the struggle to be much more difficult. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who doesn't believe in a God will take their own life. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that sometimes you need something much more powerful than yourself in order for you to make it in this world, in this life. I found that through my religion, through my faith, through my belief. And it's really not a religion, to be honest with you, even though we might call it that. But when you're faced with struggles, these struggles of life will affect you. And it is your understanding in a higher being than yourself that will help guide you through the right path, a path that is not harmful, and lead you into perhaps a state of life that is much more meaningful than the state of life you're in during the struggle. I know that's a lot, and I know I'm saying a lot here, and I know I'm going out there and I'm really maybe not talking to you, but you never know. What if this is the video that somebody's watching because they've invested in crypto and they've lost everything? A lot of people right now have lost a lot of their portfolio investment because crypto is crashing and has crashed. And will it go back to its levels that it was a year and a half ago? Possibly, possibly not. No one really knows, which is why I have talked about being very careful and not allowing greed to motivate your decisions on investing in crypto or anything else for that matter. It is important that you remain physically, mentally, spiritually healthy so that you can survive moments like this. Many years ago, my wife, the wife that I have right now, her father, who is no longer alive, he didn't die by suicide, but he attempted suicide. He took a knife and he slit his throat because of so much pressure. Not only did he struggle with severe mental illness, he struggled with it without having really any psychological help. He didn't have a faith leader or someone of faith to guide him at the time that he did this. And he felt the only way to solve the problem that he was confronting, it was an enormous amount of pressure he had, from what I'm told. And I did get to probably not talk deep about this kind of thing with my father-in-law when he was alive. We would talk about certain things, and there was a time where he reached out to me and asked me if I would help him get connected to mental health services, and I did that for him, and that helped him out. So what I'm saying here is, if somebody reaches out to you for help, don't be afraid to talk to them and ask the difficult questions on whether or not that person is struggling to a point they feel they no longer need to be around. Because every person deserves life, liberty, and happiness. After all, this is the country that offers that. But does it? That's really the question. Does it offer that? So that could be that could be the very driver that either sets you off into a life full of mishaps and shortcomings, or that's the phrase that leads you and drives you to an enormous amount of success. Life, liberty, and happiness. So pay attention to the little things like that, because, you know, it's sort of kind of like the kid that's learning a sport. And every time that kid is trying to achieve on perfecting the sport, let's take perhaps basketball, every time that kid shoots the ball and misses, it sort of makes them feel like they're a failure, like they can't do it, like it's too hard. Those feelings are very toxic. And if you convince yourself, yeah, my arm is too short, I'm too short, my feet are not fast, I just don't have the balance. And you just, all these excuses of why you've missed the 50th shot and haven't made the basket from a 3-point line, you begin to convince yourself you're no good for this sport. And guess what? That type of thinking will lead you to more failure, and ultimately, yes, you will become what you believe. And if you believe that you ain't good enough, you will become not good enough. I hope this is making sense for you. Really, what I'm talking about here is the power of words, and the words that you believe and you conceive mentally, which drive out some of these types of behaviors. So I want to just touch a little bit more on my father-in-law. So my father-in-law, he had a period of time where he was going through a lot of personal and marital and financial and legal problems. And these problems were so enormous, he felt a lot of shame. He's gone now, so I can talk about this. He was stealing money from a job that he had, and over 10 years had stole so much money from this company to live a life, or to offer a life better for his kids and for his household. And it caught up to him. It caught up to him because he eventually got caught, got fired, lost everything, started a foreclosure, lost that. The marriage went sour because of the finances. And there's many more things I don't know, but those are some of the basic things I've been told from my wife in sharing with me. And I share with you because I think sometimes we keep those things quiet. And there's no shame. The fact that I'm talking to you about this is not that I'm shaming my father-in-law. My father-in-law made mistakes. Yes, he perhaps made the wrong choices, and those are the consequences of making the wrong choices, is dealing with life when it blows up that way in your face, and dealing with the pressure. Sometimes the pressure is just too much to handle, and so it leads people to begin to think that that's the only way out. While that may be true in some circumstances or cases, I tend to say, no, there's always a better way. I am the type that I will run toward my problem, not away from my problem. Many people run away from the problem to avoid it. And the way they run away from the problem is not necessarily, I'm speaking metaphorically. In other words, you're not running literally away from your problem, unless your problem is, hey, I got a lion that is chasing me and it wants to eat me. Or I got a bear that is chasing, that's not the kind of problem I'm talking about here. The type of problem I'm talking about is financial debt, collections, foreclosure, repo, this, that, the other. Those kinds of problems, most people typically will run away from, will avoid them, will begin to, man, I don't want to talk about that. The attitude begins to be distant. And I have found that when you run toward the problem, things just get better quicker. And so I'm not gonna maybe in this video share how I have ran into certain problems and how I've approached those problems to solve them and to sleep at night with some form of peace and liberty and move on. So I know there's a lot in there that would be good to discuss in this video, but this video is really about something else. So maybe in a different video, I will try and break and unpack some of that for you. Moving on. So my father-in-law, goes out, lays in a field next to a casino, and makes his last final call to someone in the family, and he leaves some love letters for his children and his wife in the home. And that's how they find out, and that's how they start looking, and they find him 6 hours later, barely with a heartbeat. So long story short, he did not die as a result of his attempt. So he was a survivor of this, but let's continue. I'm talking about crypto and the struggles with crypto and investments, because there is a lot of people right now who are struggling, who can't sleep at night, who are figuring out how they're going to get that money back. There have been so many crypto became very attractive in the last 5 or 6 years. And I think the stories that we do hear from a few people of making an enormous amount of wealth in crypto led a lot of other people into an investment journey of, sort of kind of getting rich quick, so that you can also live the life perhaps you are envisioning as part of your own definition of success. So of course, many know in the videos that I've done that I talk about success not as just financial. I define success very different than most people perhaps define success. But the reality is that there are a lot of us, including myself, who have invested in crypto and have lost a lot of money. Or maybe I should put it this way: for those who have not sold their cryptocurrencies, their portfolios are down 70%, more or less. So if you don't sell, and if you hang on it, and if it never recovers, it's a loss. How long are we going to keep our money invested in a crypto that just might not come back? So let me talk to you about a couple that I think just probably are not going to come back. And here's the reason why I think this. First of all, based on what I've been researching, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure we are going to experience a worst case scenario than where we're at right now. So worst case scenario could mean a lot of things, but here's the short and sweet. I think when the tide changes in our financial economic situation, when the winds change, which they are gonna change, let's not be naive. Understand that we're not out of the worst stuff yet. I'm telling you, I believe that we are going to experience a fall. And this fall is gonna lead to more financial ruin. So the sentiment is that stocks, real estate, including crypto, is going to continue to crash. There are going to be lower lows. Now, no one knows exactly how devastating the blow is going to be, but it's going to be devastating. And so if many people, many smart people, many people who are economists, who do this for a living, who invest every day, every single day, they're spending 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day studying the markets, researching, following, trading, those kinds of people who do this for a living, many very brilliant, smart people are saying we're going to experience a recession that is unlike any other. And if that is true, that tells me things are going to get worse. And as a result, when things get worse, certain companies, think about it like this. When inflation is extremely high and you have an area with a high percentage of unemployment, and just in that area, let's say a state or a county or a city or a region of the United States. I think about, you remember when in Detroit, Michigan, it used to thrive. People used to say, hey, move this way. Look, boom. I mean, when car manufacturing came into existence, Detroit, Michigan had it all. A thriving area with a lot of money being made, very low unemployment rate, and everybody was doing well. Then look at Detroit, Michigan now. Look at what happened when the car industry left the country and went to a third world country like Mexico and like China and like other parts of the country, India, I think, other parts of the country where labor was cheap. These companies fled. They don't care about us. If they cared about the people in Detroit, they would have stayed and paid more taxes and paid more higher wages and cut a little bit more of their bottom line. They would have still been profitable, but they wouldn't have been profitable at the numbers that they desired to get. So you see, ultimately, no one cares about the individual. No one cares about, or I'm saying not no one, companies that are in it for the money. They don't care about the individual. Plain and simple. People like you and I, we're just people like we're not that significant to them, which is why these decisions are made and families are broken, things like that happen, and they continue to happen. So I know I digressed a little bit, but let me get back to what I was going to say and conclude this video. In order for us to survive in crypto, you have to be wise and smart and understand that, you know what? I'm not looking to become a billionaire or a millionaire for that matter in crypto. It'd be nice if I do, but I'm not going to put large amounts of money in crypto and then deal with a situation like so. Because I'll give you an example, and I talked about a video like this, and it got a lot of reviews, and I think that's what has helped me become a little more wiser in the game of cryptocurrencies, because of people like you and I who are willing to speak the truth and share it, because it's a learning opportunity for us. Dogecoin millionaire bought 140,000. He threw it all in. Very gutsy, threw it all in, and he had a chance, and he didn't take it. His opportunity was there, but because of whatever reasons, I don't know this guy. I tend to think greed had a little bit to do with it, because you can almost hear it in his tone. I've watched a lot of his videos because I wanted to make a comment about what I think about Dogecoin Millionaire. First of all, Dogecoin, I don't think it's going to get back to the highs that it once had. There are a lot of people with a lot of power and money trying to save that token from ruin. But I don't think, I'm not invested in Dogecoin. I'm not invested in all of these meme coins. I'm just not. They're just not for me. And I'm not saying they're not good. And I'm not saying that they don't have a place in our crypto space. I'm sure they do. But they're just not for me. And so all I'm saying is I'm giving you an example. If this economy crashes even more, it's going to be like AMP token that went from 12 cents to 0.006. Now, I believe in AMP, and I don't consider AMP token a meme coin. And so I'm going to continue to keep my hopes up for AMP. But that doesn't mean that I'm going all in on AMP. I'm not. So I can afford to lose AMP. If AMP doesn't survive, if AMP token crashes more than where it's at right now, which is already feeling the pain, if AMP gets wiped out, and a lot of cryptocurrencies are going to go wiped out this recession. They won't survive it, and they're not going to survive it. They're going to get wiped out. They will be there, but they will never come back. It's like what's that token that just everybody lost their money on? Man, I can't remember. Anyhow, back to what I was saying. I do it careful. I invest carefully. I don't put all my money in. I only put a certain percentage in. I've talked about that. All the extra fat that I cut out. If this is your first video, you got to go back to some videos to understand what I'm talking about. Every extra money that I figure out at the end of the month that I can save without affecting anything, any of my current lifestyle situation, nothing. Just, if I create another avenue for saving a little bit more money, that money goes into crypto. That's it. It's like I would have not had it anyways. If I was the person that bought, say, a pair of shoes every month, well, average pair of shoes that I buy are about $100. So if I was the collector of shoes, I would just cut my shoe buying to maybe once every 6 months, and then use the difference, the $90 every month, and throw in crypto. That is how I am approaching crypto. In other words, the money that I use in crypto would have otherwise been used on something else for me or for whatever. And so I'm just finding ways to invest my extra money into crypto so that if I'm in a situation like the one I'm in now, where my portfolio is down, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to have those emotional feelings that I talked about earlier in this video. So if you made it this far, I hope you've enjoyed this content. I hope this is helpful. Again, you decide for you. It's on you. And if you're feeling down because crypto is down, keep your head up, talk to somebody about it, and don't let yourself be convinced that you've lost out in the game. I don't think you will. I think just confront your problem, look at it maybe differently, change it a little. If you're obviously alive, stay alive, things will work out. Get connected, find a faith that encourages you, that leads you to life, liberty, and happiness. All right, my friend. Take care. Aquí el Kikirikix checking out.